He wants to stay out of camera.
We all wanted to
The flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first order is to conduct a public hearing relative to potential adopt on a remote participation policy by the town, which should be applicable to all boards here in the town. So to statutory amendment that allows for such participation in case of emergency or issues, illness, temporary absence by a member who will not participate in the meeting. Does anybody have any comments regarding the participation policy?
I got most of my questions already. Originally,
Rich, can you use the mic, please? Make sure that, I don't think it's on, but.
Yeah, it's on.
no, I won't do that. Originally, my question revolved around the fact that I have an email from MMA on the draft policy where they had said that each board has to create its own particular, and I mentioned it to Keith, and Keith said, no, this policy that you guys are adopting addresses the planning board, the selectmen, the ZB. I said, oh, okay. Pretty much covered my, I was going to come and hear. There are, that's what Keith was saying. I was going to come and hear how you had done it so that if we had to adopt something, we'd have a framework to work from. But Keith said, no, you guys are covering it all.
So I have a comment. So I spoke to a friend who is a member of the state legislature, and he remarked that even though the policy has been put in place, that it's still being redacted, and as conditions on the ground change, the governor is probably going to change her ruling or, this particular piece of legislation. But he also indicated that he thought it was meant to be discretionary on the basis of each town, each board to make its own decisions. And the reason why I'm speaking tonight is that anecdotally, I was at the transfer station and several members of the community came up to me and told me how much they enjoy being able to log on to the meetings and listen in, stay the amount of time that they needed to stay, could take care of other things while they were listening. And we've had much greater participation in our planning board meetings as a result of members being able to log in. So in the past, we have public hearings and things like that. When we were meeting at school, nobody showed up. And it was very discouraging. And we've had a lot of participation if you look at our recordings. And it's a very active participation also by not only members presenting that have things before the board, but other members of the community who are interested to see what's going on. So I would request that we might make it discretionary to a certain extent. For instance, the planning board operates very well remotely. And, if we could have that flexibility, I think it would be much appreciated.
The planning board, because we do have a lot more participation. I would imagine it's a lot like you. We turned up because of this policy. I don't know how often we get people shut down.
Well, and plus, Lee J lives quite a distance from where we're holding the meetings. And I think it's, an onerous task for him to get here because he has so many other responsibilities with other, towns. And he's been a very important part of our meetings, taking over for Tad, and a very good addition, I might add. Personally, I think he's been a real asset. So, but I like to know that he's there and he's participating. And when we're all on the same footing remotely, it makes it a lot easier for all of us to communicate, I think, effectively and feel like, you know, we're all functioning on the same level. So, and then there are several members of the planning board whose spouses or significant others are not well, and they prefer to have the meetings so that they can stay home and participate at the same time. So those are all considerations.
The last comment was addressed.
Right, right.
Chair consultation with members if possible. You would allow participation, but the state law requires in-person participation by board members and the public. This is a new addition to the statute. I think we're stuck with the statutory makeup. If the legislature changed that, that'd be great. They allow more to be that you're suggesting, but I don't think we have that option.
So
Right, we can't make it discretionary. It has to be a reason, and that's from the state. That's
Okay.
mandated by the state.
So I'll call Sam Zager back and I'll find out why he made that comment to me about having a certain modicum of flexibility. And if he can point it to me in the statute, I'll share it with you.
I know RSU 21 is struggling with it a little bit also, and I'll talk a little bit about that at my report, but they had that discussion at their meeting last week. So,
But Lee J did express, you know, a desire to be able to meet remotely because it is, I wouldn't say a burden, but it makes it more difficult for him to do everything.
It's a little over an hour to his house from here.
I need a decision that the chair will have to make, whether that's sufficient distance far away that he be able to participate.
Well, and because he has other responsibilities with other towns, he's like spread pretty thin, and he does a really good job. So I'm not saying that it's impacted what he's done for the planning board, but it's a consideration. Anyway.
the other piece of it too is if at some point in time we feel that he's spread pretty thin and he's not taking care of our needs, and we need to look at it and make sure that our needs are taken care of. I mean, I don't care who the individual is. I want to make sure the town of Arundel is represented by a planner.
Well, to date, he's done a really good job.
I agree.
And so there are no, I think I speak to the entire board, there are no complaints. But, you know, to make it easier on him. But up to now, he's been very efficient.
Up to this point, I think he's done an excellent job, and the day that he doesn't, I've been in the Seakeep a couple of times on different issues. Nothing related to Lee J. But if I had a problem, I could tell the chief and say, hey, this is the issue. You know, he's not available. You know. I haven't had that problem yet.
No.
I don't anticipate having that problem.
So,
If you're meeting in person, can't they still come remote? We've had a deal.
Mhm.
Only under the emergency order that takes place.
Yeah, that's the main problem.
Well, they can watch the video.
but they can't participate,
Remote,
right?
remote is in person.
And they can't present anything remotely. And they,
If they get on Zoom or something, that they can watch the video, they can participate. And then the evidence without.
I was working something up to the effect that this is the way, if the public wants to watch the meeting, they're going to be able to watch it, but if they want to participate, they have to come to the meeting.
Right.
I'm Susan Sen, I'm on the board. Yep, I'm on the planning board as well. So why can't they participate via Zoom? Why can't Zoom be an interactive? We do it at schools. Why can't someone be controlling the Zoom? No, I meant the outside person coming in. The board can be in person. It's the state statute says the person presenting or asking from the public has to be in person as well.
Yeah.
It states that specifically. So other people that are like specifically have issues coming through they have to come from work versus they were just coming in. Now they're going to have to come in to have a discussion if they have something to say.
unless they fit into one of the exceptions that are provided in this policy.
Even the public, that's my question.
So prior to Zoom, we could, I mean, prior to the pandemic.
Well,
you couldn't
it
have
has
any of
changed though,
this stuff.
Dan.
Right.
I mean, it's changed.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
get
go
it.
back to, you can go back, but you can't go back. Do you know what I mean? We have technology now that we can utilize. That's why I'm saying it kind of like, I understand the in-person for the people on boards, but people that are wanting to have discussions, they're still in face, they're still there, they're still in documented, they're still recorded, they're still in the meeting. So the entire country has been in meetings and doing things electronically. There has been now a change to go from electronic back to in-person, but there are people that are uncomfortable with it, and there are people that cannot make the thing but have points of view. I would prefer, as a person who's listening to the public, to have them the ability to talk to me as someone having concern if they're unable to come. Do you see what I'm saying? So the thinking about that as the board itself, would a board have to be present? That's up to you, or the statute. But I'm saying if a public person wants to come in, there is ways for, and it has been for school boards, and it has been for whatever boards, that people can come in and ask a question. There can be a person moderating it and can facilitate that communication. It doesn't always have to be just recorded. It can be a Zoom and record. That's what I'm asking.
If the statute doesn't allow that to happen.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Because the world has changed, let's use it. Okay, thank you.
Anything else on? Ms. Paul? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing on the motion participation policy. Move on to approve the agenda.
Chair, I do have an RSU 21 update. And also, when we talk about the panels, I have a quick update on the microphones.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, then I make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
All in favor? Public forum. This time, if anybody wants to bring anything to the attention of the board that we're not slated to discuss already, that we're going to be on the agenda now. Okay, move on. Approval of the minutes of July 12th.
I move to approve as written.
All in favor then? Any board reports? Team Ham.
Okay, July 19th, RSU 21 School Board. They started the meeting as a in-person and remote. There was, right off the bat, there was some discussion. They're kind of waiting for a ruling. They've asked if they can continue. There was a couple of board members that are against that. There's a couple of board members that want to go to fully in-person. But right now, it kind of looks like they want to try to do that. The superintendent right now is out of state, so they're kind of using that. Of course, right now, it's okay, but it's at the end of the month, right? This is, I think it starts at the end of this month. Under public comment, there was an individual that kind of stood up and started talking about she had a major issue with one of the school board members and how that individual was treating her child. That discussion, was quickly shut off. They want to go through the proper channels. There was a long discussion about that. Let's see. Then there was also a discussion on response chair from responses from the chair and superintendent. How sometimes when a question gets asked, a lot of times the school board has a policy of not answering, not getting into discussion when something is brought up from the public. However, there's concerns that these things aren't getting answered. And so there's a handful of folks that spoke up with that. And the chair and superintendent kind of, addressed it and said they were going to do what they could to make sure that they answer everything as soon as possible. They did a special ed Special education talked about the grade 1 to 8 pandemic progress update. There were some concerns on how that's going. So what they did is, they looked at some progress reports to identify areas for some future development. Again, math and reading were issues. They had put a concentrated effort to try to improve those scores. End of year was around 98% progress, but it was still far shy of the NWEA data goals. They'll continue to monitor in 2022. They kind of feel that when they get back to 5-day in school, that's going to make a big difference. They approved Casey Vizina, level 9, 59,839. I forgot to write what the position is. I don't have an agenda. The superintendent reported for the new director of operations. She also introduced the new assistant superintendent. Summer school is winding down. Middle school, they had 17 students. Elementary, they had 124 students. That is slated to wind down August 5th. In the high school, they had over 100 programs for credits, and that ended on June 21st. They talked about testing for the school year. She's going to do what they call some pool testing. It's going to need a consent by the parents. It takes 15 minutes per classroom. There was a big discussion about whether masks need to be worn. So per the CDC and the MDE guidelines, they need to have a 3-foot distancing. If they can't have a 3-foot distancing, then they need to be masked. So there was a discussion about, well, students that are vaccinated should wear a mask and students that aren't vaccinated shouldn't. And then, that's kind of pitting, students against students. Yeah, you're wearing a mask, you're not wearing a mask. And so they're still trying to figure that out on exactly how they're going to do that. She talked about how teachers need time to collaborate. She's working on creating a professional development calendar for teachers. And the new website is expected to be rolled out at the end of August. Committee report, there was a first reading on the Board of Directors and Professional Staff Code of Conduct. The election of new officers, the board chair is Art LeBlanc, vice chair is Loretta McDonald, and the parliamentarian is Loretta McDonald. They set their meeting dates. They pretty much did a pretty good job of not coinciding the same dates as ours. Obviously, as always, there are some that are gonna bump up against us, but they did pretty good with that. She talked a little bit about getting back into some coffee sessions, and usually at the end of the meetings, the school liaisons, each school liaison talked about what's going on, and there was concerns about that, especially being at the very end of the meeting. Sometimes these meetings go on till 10, 11 o'clock. So they're looking at maybe doing something different, maybe putting the school liaison updates on the website. They're going to go back and look at that and try to find a better way to do that. And we adjourned at 9:15.
Wow, that was a fast meeting.
Started at 6.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, working on the old town hall building presently. Next week, Safe Environmental Services will be down to take a review of the building to determine if we have any hazardous materials there. At this time, I'm also preparing a request for proposal. I will not submit the request for proposal until I talk to the Safe Environmental folks, because it may need to add a caveat in there to have some work done prior to a contractor coming in regards to that. So that's still a work in progress. The surplus office folks from Sanford is supposed to be down. I indicate to them, just give me a call when they're in the area, and we'll go over and take a look at what we have and see if they're interested in any office furniture that we have remaining in the building. We'll get that wrapped up prior to any approvals to demolish or at least get prices for it. And finally, I need to also work on oil removal from the furnace. I'm not quite sure. I was in there the other day and I neglected to go down to see how much oil is remaining in the barrel. But we'll have to coordinate somebody coming by and removing that oil and probably the barrel as well prior to demolition. So something else that we're still working on. So, but
Wouldn't Roger have the equipment to do that?
Roger may have the equipment to do that. But I'll ask him. I have not asked him that question quite yet. But a lot of these things have to be done simultaneously. And I think prior to getting a good hard number from any contractor reference to that. So we'll still work on it. And I'm hopeful by the middle to the end of this upcoming month that we have some numbers that we can then decide, or you folks can decide whether or not you want to move forward with a special town meeting to address that issue for future demolition. The landscaping RFPs have gone back out again. They're expected back the last meeting of August. In this RFP, I also included the mowing of the facility, of the municipal building, along with at least 2 treatments of fertilizer throughout the year. I had a quick, really brief discussion just before the meeting started with Phil. Phil has been very proactive in trying to secure some folks that may be interested in providing us a proposal. So I'm hopeful with his contacts and our information back out to our community landscapers, as well as putting it on our website, that we get some sort of traction this time in terms of getting some numbers to do our work. Finally, for me, I provided to you the state revenue projections for the upcoming year, which I was pleasantly surprised as to what they're anticipating for Arundel for next year, which is $427,240.26. I had, as we put the budget together, I had anticipated $275,000. So, which was very conservative, which I often try to be. But in this case, it may have been too conservative based on the new projections from the state. I'm uncertain as to specifically where all the revenue money is coming from. I'm not sure if they're contributing as well from the rescue funds or not. But having said that, we should have $152,240.26 more than we had anticipated at the end of next year. So good news. It helps obviously helps our fund balance and provides options to this board as we move through other projects that you may want to use those funds for. As we discussed, perhaps some of the funding could be used for the demolition of the old municipal building. And we've also looked at discussions in our budget process, whether or not we wanted to add or use additional fund balance to offset our tax rate. So all discussions that we can have in the future.
We're going to be setting a tax rate at the next meeting?
I don't believe it will be next meeting. I haven't spoken to the assessor yet. My goal would be the last meeting in August would be when we'll set that rate. And I'll have further discussions with her to see where she is in terms of capturing. Obviously, we want to capture all the value as of April 1st, but she has to make sure that information is in there and that when we get, once you set the tax rate, then we're ready to issue tax bills.
Okay, moving on to business section then. First, the panels. I think it's a little better.
I think it is too.
Yeah, I think we still need more of them.
Yeah.
They look good though, good pattern, nice job.
Oh, thank you.
Bring out the decoration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably 140 man hours.
Yeah.
It was quite tedious.
Yeah.
I think my son and I, we were out here by like 11:30.
So, yeah, it didn't take them long to put them up. Your thoughts, I think the board's thoughts are the same as mine, that we probably need another round of these. Now, if we do with the large ones, they cover 32 square feet. So if we get 2 of the larger panels, that would give us enough to maybe do the sidewalls, because that's about 40 feet wide. So that would be able to get you, follow your padding, Jason, and just come right across. That's just my suggestion. There may be a better one than that, but
Did you check with Simone about like a historical blanket or anything?
I did.
Is there anything around?
She, well, what we're discussing is that Simone is a quilter, and our thought was maybe having her design and hang some quilts, sort of like how the lights are hung up in those peak areas on either side of the air exchangers, and have it Arundel themed. Her response to me was, yeah, it's a pretty good idea, but let's wait till the board makes a decision with the additional panels. If you want to go panels, you want to go with the quilts. I think she'd be receptive to perhaps doing one. So we're going to have some big efforts to get a bunch of done. She had some options as to what she thought could be done. So however you want to proceed next is fine with me. But my thought was, before we hit the quilts, we may want to go one more time with the panels, and then see what that brings us.
How many panels in a set when we order them?
The
larger ones.
the medium set would be 8 of the 4x8s, the ones that are
These
behind
ones,
you.
yeah.
And we would eliminate the small 2x2s. I
Yeah.
think Jason and I both thought that the 2x2s may have really been a waste, as opposed to the
Yeah.
large 2x4s, so.
I gotta be honest, I prefer the grouping
Yeah.
of the panels versus the,
Space in
I mean,
between.
this to me just, it drives me crazy just sitting there looking at it.
Yeah.
It needs, I think this room needs like something other than miscellaneous panels. Like,
Those
this
are-
isn't too bad when they're all together. I mean, it kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I really think we're gonna need to put something up on the ceiling, more stuff on the ceiling.
I don't know if I can say anything about it. I will tell you that I wear these, and I know that when people are planning for meetings here, I'm having a hell of a time. Here. I'm having trouble today, I keep adjusting different things, trying to, but it's bad,
Yeah,
it's really bad. You know, I know I'm the only guy with bad hearing, but. You know,
I think something different, like the quotes or maybe some flags, I don't know, like a state of Maine flag or just something different than.
yeah, maybe a couple of state of Maine, we already have the American flag, but could hang an American flag up there and the state of Maine flag.
Maybe if someone could do maybe 2 quilts or something.
And that would kind of dress it up a little
Right.
bit, And, I mean, any kind of material, cloth wise or whatever, is gonna help with the sound, right? It's gonna help dampen that sound.
So we could don't do any more panels.
No, I agree, we need more panels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we order another set of large panels. Right, that's what we want, right? We want the large panels.
Yeah. I'll second that.
What was that, Keith, like $1,800 or something? What was the?
No, they weren't that much. He ended up being around $1,000, I think. And the smaller ones were like $680.
There's eight big ones, so I think if we did like 2 and 2, and then maybe 1, 1, 1. There's really not, and then 2 maybe here, there's really not a lot of wall space.
Unless you put them up over each door. 1, 2, 3, up over each door.
Work in progress. And I did have a discussion with Mike on the mics, and the microphones that are interested in won't be available until, looks like maybe late September. At this point, I figured what's an extra, it's the set that he suggested. I don't have a price yet. I asked him to give me a quote for the price. So I don't have that yet. Hopefully I'll get that within the next day or two, and I can report that at the next meeting.
Okay, the consent is to adopt the remote participation policy or not.
Don't really have a choice. Second.
Made, second, to adopt policy as prepared.
I just wish that we could do both. In other words, have a meeting like this and also have it publicized on Zoom so people could come in, they could make comment. I mean, you'd have, to me, that would make sense. It would be the best of both worlds.
You think it should be logical.
Yes, I know. Sorry about that.
Well, maybe I'll ask the chair, if I could stay home every meeting.
Yeah.
I would force it to happen.
Yeah.
No further discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor of adopting the remote participation policy? All opposed?
I'll send it on down. You can sign this one.
Keep working on the legislature to see if they'll change that. Yeah.
I have a funny feeling we're gonna go backwards.
Yeah.
You cannot ring the bell, I mean, people are just used to it. And how do you know who's vaccinated and who isn't when it comes to these meetings?
Yeah.
And do you require everybody to wear a mask or show that they're vaccinated?
What's that?
How do you know who's vaccinated and who isn't?
You can't ask. You can't ask.
It's not a violation of HIPAA. It is not. It is not a violation of HIPAA. HIPAA only applies to medical personnel.
That's another thing, because you don't know who's vaccinated and who isn't. People who aren't vaccinated should be wearing a mask.
There's not a person,
Right.
there's not a person in your county that isn't vaccinated, because I haven't seen anybody wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Towards me away.
Yeah.
They're not wearing it.
Who seconded that?
Phil.
Phil did? Okay, thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Weight on your shoulders there, buddy.
Yeah.
We have 2 payables. Fiscal year ending?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your last fiscal year, 2021, and then your new one, 21, 22.
Make a motion, we approve payable and payroll submitted.
New business.
I have one other piece. Jim Nagel's on vacation this week. I would like to appoint and have you approve appointing Patty McKenna as Deputy Code Enforcement Officer while he's away. I have her nomination or the papers here for you to sign, and then Patty will be in. We're going to use her on an as-needed basis. We'll just call her when we need her, but be nice to have her in case something does come up.
Question, Pete,
Yep.
is Patty still on board in Wyoming?
She, well, interesting. I heard that she just negotiated going back to work for them. So she'll be employed with them again. I don't know what the circumstances are there. I guess she had a couple options. She was perhaps going to Gorham as an assistant code officer. But from what I understand, before Jim left, Jim told me that they offered her a position and she took it in Lyman again.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, so that, we have that in our budget, right?
Well, it's not a lot of money,
It
you know,
depends how often Jim is.
right? And Jim's only gone, once or twice a year. And like he said, if something comes up that we really need his expertise, just give him a call.
Yeah, don't we usually, when we do committees, and isn't that usually one of the items that every year we go through this? We vote to have somebody fill in for Jim.
Yeah, I think we had Patty.
Yeah,
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 yeah, but I think we normally do it when we do all of the committees and all the appointments. I might have just missed that.
sure. I could,
Yeah, good.
yep, need a motion in a second.
second,
Thank you.
Anything else, folks?
Your turn, Jason.
Motion, oh, sorry, go ahead. Keith, Roger,
you go.
on snow.
No, we haven't made a determination on snow. What we did was we enhanced our advertising again. We have laid out there the possibility of bonus to some folks who wish to work for us that have CDL licenses. So, and that went to print late last week. So we're going to give it a week or so. He said he had one, spoke to him today, he had one gentleman who may be interested in coming and help. I did float the idea of perhaps contracting out portions of the community. He's reluctantly thinking about it, but reality may set in, Phil. And so as him and I discussed, we're not going to wait much more until after the middle of this upcoming month before we
Yeah,
make a decision.
We can't wait too long.
Right.
We'll lose the opportunity if we do.
I ran into that gentleman today, we talked about it a little bit, and he is ready and willing to have a conversation with you and Roger
Okay,
and discuss what may or may not be needed. And he indicated to me that he had some interest. He visited another town and did not get it, so he has room
okay,
if we, and he needs to move soon
All right.
if you want to get contracted out.
But this would have to go out to bid anyway, right? So we couldn't just hire him. We'd have to go out to bid for this.
Right.
okay. I'll speak with Roger and we'll get the ball rolling. I don't think we're getting much response to our position, so unfortunately, we may have to use that as an alternative for the upcoming winter season.
We can work on that.
Yeah,
We can help
Get you
you.
trained.
yeah.
We've helped others before.
During the wintertime, I'm working remotely with a company out of Minnesota.
Well, it's all right. You can put your laptop right in the truck. You're all set to go.
That'll work.
All right, Jason.